You ever look up at the sky and think, wow, that's beautiful? Maybe you've heard that tonight is one of those rare nights. The northern lights are visible far beyond the Arctic Circle, lighting up cities like New York, Chicago, and even California. People everywhere are glued to their phones, checking the Aurora Borealis forecast, tracking apps and asking themselves, can I see the northern lights tonight? It's an event you can't miss. But what if there's something far darker unfolding under those glowing skies? It's not just the auroras that have captured attention. Lately, a chilling mystery has been forming, one that connects missing people with the northern lights. A series of disappearances across the U.S., Ohio, Colorado, even as far as Maryland and Seattle, has been baffling police. These people weren't connected, no obvious ties between them. Except for one thing, they were all last seen gazing up at the skies during the Aurora Borealis. Does that make you wonder? Is it a coincidence? Or is something more sinister going on here? What could possibly link these breathtaking natural phenomena to gruesome disappearances? Stick with me, and by the end of this video, I'll reveal a shocking truth that may just change the way you view the northern lights. Because when the aurora shines next, you'll want to be more careful about where you are and who's around. Now I know this sounds like something out of a thriller, but here's the catch. Every time a new Aurora Borealis forecast is released, the killer seems to move. We've got apps and tools now, like the Northern Lights Tracker, Aurora Maps, and the KP Index, showing exactly where the next aurora will be visible. Tonight, for example, you might be seeing it over Seattle, Portland, even as far south as Dallas. Thousands of people are preparing, eager to catch a glimpse. But what most of them don't realize is that they're stepping into a deadly pattern. Here's where it gets even stranger. Police have been tracking this for years, but the pieces never quite fit, until recently. They've started to notice something chilling. Each time there's a significant geomagnetic storm driven by a massive solar flare from the sun, that's when it happens. The northern lights are at their peak, and so are the attacks. Is it a distraction, or is the killer using the lights to mask their movements? Let me walk you through one of the most disturbing cases. It was a clear night in Chicago when the skies lit up in brilliant shades of green and purple. People flooded the streets, phones in hand, trying to capture the rare event. One woman, let's call her Sarah, was an avid skywatcher. She was tracking the Aurora Borealis like many of us do, checking apps, following the Northern Lights forecast, excited to see the lights from her balcony. She posted a few updates online, sharing her excitement. That was the last anyone heard from her. The next morning, her family reported her missing. The authorities were baffled. There was no sign of forced entry, no struggle, nothing. But Sarah wasn't alone. Just in the past year, dozens of similar cases have popped up across the country. People simply vanishing under the same skies we all stare up at in awe. Now stay with me, because this next part is where it all starts to come together. The locations of these disappearances, all aligned with the aurora's predicted path. From Seattle to New York, from Wisconsin to Texas, the Northern Lights map seems to be doubling as a roadmap for something far more sinister. Every time there's a major space weather event, when the KP index spikes and the lights are visible farther south than usual, people disappear. And the killer seems to strike in places you'd least expect. Portland, Baltimore, Minneapolis, even Buffalo. But what's the connection? Why the Northern Lights? What is it about this natural wonder that seems to be tied to such horrific crimes? That's the question investigators are still struggling to answer. But there's one theory that's beginning to make sense. This killer is drawn to crowds. Think about it. When the Aurora Borealis is forecasted, people gather. In places like Seattle, Ohio, and even California, large groups flock outside, staring at the skies, distracted, unaware of what might be happening right next to them. The perfect cover. So here's what you need to know. Next time you see a post or a news alert that the Northern Lights will be visible in your area, take a moment. Check the KP index, check the Aurora map, but also check your surroundings. The killer could be using that very same forecast to plan their next move. And it's not just in the far north anymore. Places like Dallas, Phoenix, San Francisco, even Rochester, NY, are now hotspots for both the lights and the disappearances. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't go out and enjoy the Aurora Borealis. In fact, it's one of the most beautiful experiences you'll ever witness. But maybe think twice before you head out to that remote spot or follow the crowd to a popular viewpoint. Because while everyone's looking up, who's watching their back? Stay with me, because we're about to dive deeper into the mind of the person behind these disappearances. There's something about the chaos of the auroras, the disruption of geomagnetic storms, that seems to appeal to them. And I'll reveal the one clue investigators have been too afraid to talk about. It's the detail that ties all these cases together, and it's been hiding in plain sight. Now, here's where things get really creepy. The Space Weather Prediction Centers are warning that another big solar storm is expected this week. You've probably seen posts about it, people getting excited about the Aurora lights tonight. They're forecasting the northern lights to be visible from Texas to Utah, from Long Island to Indiana, even Pennsylvania. And with that comes the risk. Will there be another disappearance? I'll be tracking it closely, and I'll be sharing updates on where the Aurora Borealis is most visible next. But here's my advice. Stay safe, stay alert, and if you're planning to head out to catch the lights tonight, make sure you're not alone. But before you go, hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be covering this case in detail, breaking down exactly how the killer has been using the northern lights as a cover for their crimes, and what you can do to avoid becoming the next victim. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next, because the northern lights are coming, and with them, so is something else.